There are lessons that people spend 50 years trying to understand, but you will grasp them in just a few minutes. In less than an hour, more than 15 short stories will take you through moments where every choice has the power to change a life. You will step into ancient villages of India, narrow paths leading to Japanese monasteries, rushing rivers in Tibet, and meet people confronting fear, anger, greed, but also love, courage, and patience. Each story, though lasting only a few minutes, contains climactic moments that will make you hold your breath, following every decision that characters make. Each story is its own challenge, its own journey, yet together, they form a linked chain of experiences, revealing different perspectives on compassion, wisdom, patience, and the power of letting go. You won't need any explanation, because each moment in the stories will let you feel and awaken on your own. Some moments will make you smile, some will bring tears to your eyes, and some will leave you silent, realizing that seemingly small decisions can transform the way you see the world, how you interact with loved ones, friends, and even yourself. Over the next hour, you will embark on a journey across time and space, meeting people from different cultures, each facing challenges we all encounter: fear, anger, greed, faith, and love. And as each story concludes, you will realize that in just a few short minutes, you can absorb lessons that others spend half a lifetime learning, and the light from these stories will shine into your mind in ways you never expected. Theme 1. Parables of Compassion and Forgiveness. Story 1. The Fateful Encounter Under the Full Moon. On a quiet night in a small mountain village in Japan, the full moon cast its silver light over the red-tiled roofs, glimmering on the narrow stone paths that wound through the village. Kaze, a young samurai, was riding home after a long day of sword training. The cold night wind carried the faint scent of cherry blossoms, and the rustling leaves made his horse's steps hurry along. Focused on the road ahead, Kaze didn't notice an elderly man walking on the path, Hiroshi, a gentle villager well known in the community. A sudden collision rang out. The horse reared, and Hiroshi tumbled to the ground. Kaze stopped immediately, his heart racing, fear tightening around his chest. "Oh no, Hiroshi, are you okay?" he shouted, his voice breaking in the stillness of the night. Hiroshi lifted his head, eyes half closed, a smear of blood on his forehead. I'm fine. Just fell," he murmured weakly, attempting a reassuring smile. Kaze jumped down and knelt beside him. "I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. I'll take you home. Please, forgive me," he said, his voice choked with fear and regret. Hiroshi was silent for a moment, furrowing his brow, then slowly reached out to touch Kaze's shoulder. "It's all right, Kaze. Thankfully you stopped in time. Even if I had fallen into the ravine, it would have been fate," he said, his voice calm and measured. A wave of surprise and disbelief washed over Kaze. He had never seen anyone forgive so quickly, without demanding repeated apologies, without questioning, without blame. Helping Hiroshi to his feet, Kaze guided him back to the small house on the edge of the village. Hiroshi spoke little along the way, letting a serene silence flow between them, allowing Kaze to feel a strange, soothing peace seep into his heart. Once home, Kaze sat on the porch, watching Hiroshi remove his shoes and clean the blood from his forehead with a soft cloth. You're not angry?" Kaze asked anxiously. Hiroshi turned, eyes shining under the moonlight, a smile carrying quiet forgiveness. "I'm not angry, Kaze. Life is too short to hold on to hatred. Those who recognize their mistakes should correct them. Not being angry makes the heart light," he said. In the following days, Kaze couldn't stop thinking about Hiroshi's words. His initial shame and fear gradually gave way to warmth and serenity. He began visiting Hiroshi regularly, helping with daily chores, carrying water, tidying the granary, tending the vegetable garden. Each time, Hiroshi's eyes conveyed a silent forgiveness, and Kaze felt as if his soul was being gently cleansed of anxiety and worry. One afternoon, while helping Hiroshi repair a leaky roof, Kaze asked, "You truly aren't angry with me?" Hiroshi, leaning on his cane, gazed toward the mountains, bathed in golden sunset light. "Kaze, the human heart is vast as the mountains, wide as the sky. Holding on to anger suffocates us. Forgiveness, It frees oneself, not the other, he said. Each word measured, resonating like footsteps on firm ground. Day by day, Kaze's presence became familiar, a calm rhythm threading through Hiroshi's tranquil life. One evening, under another full moon, Hiroshi led Kaze to the back garden, where cherry blossoms swayed in the gentle wind. Look at these petals. They fall without resentment. They simply fall, lightly, living fully in the moment. Human hearts should be like this too, Hiroshi said, looking directly at Kaze, eyes full of silent understanding. Kaze stood in silence, each word a breeze passing through his soul. He realized that forgiveness is not weakness, but strength, a power that allows one to overcome fear and resentment and move toward peace. From that day on, Kaze was no longer just a samurai, practicing swordsmanship. He was a man learning compassion and empathy, gradually discovering the true value of a kind heart. One morning, Hiroshi called Kaze to the stream near the village. Kaze, I am old, but I want you to understand one thing. Forgiveness is the greatest gift to yourself. I do not need your thanks. I just want you to live with compassion. Kaze bowed, eyes glistening in the morning light, and offered a complete, heartfelt smile. Hiroshi turned and walked slowly along the stone path by the stream, while Kaze stood watching, his heart filled with a deep, tranquil peace. He knew that, in that moment, between the sound of flowing water and the sunlight filtering through the trees, he had learned something that all the years of sword training could not teach. Forgiveness is not just letting go of mistakes. It is opening a new path for the soul. And in the shimmering light of dawn, Kaze walked forward, no longer hurried, no longer fearful. Only with stillness and compassion, like a gentle bird soaring across the vast sky. Story 2. The Bracelet of Dawn. The morning sun pierced through the reddish-brown rooftops of a small village in Nepal, casting light onto the narrow gravel paths where a young girl named Anjali was walking. She carefully carried a precious bracelet, the last gift her mother had left before passing away. The small bracelet shimmered like the dawn, carrying memories and love from her family. As she paused by the water tank to wash her hands, a poor boy from the village, named Raju, ran past. His eyes sparkled with curiosity and a hint of anxiety, holding the bracelet that Anjali had accidentally dropped. Though he knew it was wrong, he was tempted by the shimmering beauty of the bracelet. If my mother knew, she would never approve. But what should I do? He whispered to himself, his heart racing, feet pounding the gravel. Anjali turned and noticed the bracelet was gone. The bracelet? Where is it? She gasped, eyes scanning frantically, a mixture of fear and anger rising within her. Raju stood frozen, avoiding her gaze. I'm sorry, miss, he stammered, clutching the bracelet tightly, trembling. Anjali looked at him, her heart pounding, but she didn't yell or scold. Instead, she took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Raju, why did you take my bracelet? She asked softly but firmly. Raju bowed his head, tears beginning to well up. I didn't mean to. I saw it and wanted to hold it. His clumsy but sincere answer revealed his fear and remorse. Anjali knelt down, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. Punishing you won't help. But if you want to make things right, I can help you do something better. The next day, Anjali led Raju to a small craft workshop at the edge of the village. Here, you will learn to make things out of copper, clay, and then you will understand the value of hard work, rather than taking what isn't yours, she said, her eyes full of trust and compassion. Raju looked around, at the tables, tools, and the earthy smell, feeling both curious and fearful. Can I really do this, miss? He asked, voice wavering. I believe you can, Anjali replied, her smile gentle like the morning sun lighting the village. On his first day, Raju clumsily broke a few clay pots, scraped his hands, and dropped some pieces. He felt like giving up, but Anjali's eyes followed him, guiding without blame. It's okay, Raju. Every failure teaches you something, she said, encouraging him. Weeks passed, and Raju became more skilled. He learned to shape copper and create small clay figures, his hands growing dexterous. Yet alongside the joy of learning, he struggled with shame overtaking the bracelet and gratitude for the girl who had not punished him. Each evening, He sat quietly by the hearth, reminding himself, if she had been angry or scolded me, I would have given up, but she trusts me. I must live worthy of that trust. One afternoon, as Raju finished his first clay pot and placed it on the table, Anjali entered, eyes sparkling. Raju, look. You did it, she exclaimed, voice full of joy. Raju looked at the pot, hands trembling, feeling pride and happiness swell in his heart. You really believed in me? He asked, voice choked. Anjali nodded, her eyes shining, like sunlight streaming through the window. You chose the right path, Raju. Forgiving and giving a chance to make things right is what makes you stronger. Time passed, and Raju became highly skilled in his craft, his reputation spreading across the village. People began buying his creations, and he became a source of pride for his family and the community. But the most valuable lesson he learned was not skill or wealth, but gratitude, humility, and the transformative power of forgiveness that changed his life completely. One morning, as the sun rose over the Himalayan mountains, Anjali led Raju to the porch, where a gentle breeze blew through their hair and the scent of orchids lingered in the air. Raju, look, the world is so vast and beautiful. You have learned to master yourself and walk with compassion, not out of fear or obligation, but because you understand the value of forgiveness and trust. Raju bowed his head, eyes glistening with tears, smiling. Miss, I will never forget this lesson, and I will live worthy of the trust you gave me. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating Anjali's small bracelet, sparkling like the smile and hope radiating between the two, connecting them through compassion, forgiveness, and a new journey, where mistakes were no longer burdens, but doors to growth and love. Raju held up his clay pot to the bright morning light and whispered, Miss Anjali, thank you for giving me the chance to live differently, to live better. I will not let you down. Story 3. The crossroads between fear and choice. On a winding path leading to the Yellow River, the sunset dyed the rooftops and golden rice fields in warm light. Li Wei, a Chinese merchant, rode home from a distant market, carrying a large sum of money from selling fine silk, a fortune he hoped would help his family through the harsh winter. Yet in his mind, disappointment still lingered. Months ago, a colleague named Jian had deceived him, taking most of the money. Anger simmered quietly, threading through every beat of his heart whenever he recalled Jian's false promises and deceitful gaze. Suddenly, as Li Wei stopped to rest by the riverside, he heard a cry for help from the bamboo grove. A man was trapped in a landslide, struggling, mud streaking his clothes and tears mixing with dirt. As Li Wei approached, his heart froze. It was Jian, the very man who had cheated him, fighting for his life. Jian, is that you? Li Wei shouted, voice tight with shock. Jian turned, eyes wide with panic, voice trembling. Li Wei, please, help me. Li Wei stood frozen, staring at the crumbling earth, torn between revenge and compassion. Part of him wanted to punish Jian, to reclaim what he had lost. Yet another part felt a strange pull within. If he forgave and saved this man, he would feel a weight lift from his own heart. Taking a deep breath, Li Wei made his choice. He lunged toward Jian, gripping his hand and pulling him to safety. Hold on tight, Li Wei shouted, determination echoing in the evening air. Jian clung to Li Wei's hand, their strength combined as they slowly climbed to solid ground. The setting sun painted the sky red as Li Wei finally helped Jian stand safely. Jian sat panting, body trembling, tears in his eyes. I don't know what to say, he stammered. Li Wei sat beside him, brushing mud from his clothes, looking straight into his eyes. I could have let you fall, but I chose to save you. Holding on to anger only traps me, not you. The next day, Li Wei brought Jian to his silk shop. You will learn the trade and work diligently. This is your chance to start over, not for punishment, not for revenge, Li Wei said firmly. Jian bowed silently, a mix of gratitude, guilt, and confusion stirring within him. In the following days, Li Wei guided him patiently, how to select the finest silk, calculate prices, and treat customers with respect. Jian learned step by step, battling fear of failure, but feeling the trust Li Wei had placed in him. One morning, while preparing goods for shipment, Jian carefully presented a package of silk, flawless in every detail. Masterly, did I do it correctly? He asked, voice trembling. Li Wei examined it closely, then smiled warmly. Yes, Jian. You've learned diligence and responsibility. That is far more valuable than the money you once took. Over time, under Li Wei's guidance, Jian matured into a respected merchant in the village. Yet the most valuable lesson he learned was not the skill of trading or profit, but the power of compassion, forgiveness, and the opportunity to redeem oneself. Every step he took carried gratitude, an effort to honor the trust he had been given. One late afternoon, Li Wei and Jian stood by the yellow river, sunlight turning the water golden. Li Wei, if it weren't for you, I would have lost everything, and even my faith in life, Jian said, voice choked. Li Wei placed a hand on his shoulder, eyes gazing at the calm river. I forgave you, but this chance, this success, is because you worked for it. Forgiveness frees me, but it also opens a new path for you. The evening breeze swept through their hair, carrying the scent of ripe rice and fresh river water. Li Wei watched Jian walk beside him, peace filling his heart. Jian held the silk bundle, eyes bright with trust and gratitude, silently promising, I will live worthy of this chance, and I will not disappoint you. As the sun slowly dipped behind the distant mountains, their long shadows stretched along the red dirt path by the river, two hearts walking side by side, bound by forgiveness, compassion, and the ability to transform mistakes into new opportunities in life. Story 4. The Four-Legged Stranger in Bangkok's Summer. The scorching morning in Bangkok made everyone hurry along the narrow streets, the sounds of traffic mixing with the calls of market vendors. In a small market near the river, an elderly woman named Somchai, who had lived nearly 70 years, was walking to buy a few essentials. She was thin, with silver-white hair like morning mist, yet her eyes remained bright, filled with sensitivity toward the weak and suffering around her. As she walked through a narrow alley, Somchai froze at a sight that tugged at her heart. A small dog, its front leg injured, huddled under the blazing sun. The faint smell of burning trash made passers-by wrinkle their noses. Why is she stopping? That dog is hurt. Just leave it, a vendor muttered indifferently. A group of teenagers nearby laughed and walked past, treating the dog as nothing more than trash. But Somchai could not turn away. She knelt down, gazing at the dog with gentle eyes. There, little one. I will help you, she said softly, voice calm yet resolute. The dog looked at her warily, frightened, yet seemed to sense her sincerity. Somchai took a clean cloth from her bag, carefully bandaging its leg, soothing it with her gentle voice. It's okay. I won't let you suffer any longer. The task of rescuing the dog was not easy. The dog struggled, eyes wide with fear, forcing Somchai to remain patient every second. Sweat dotted her forehead under the harsh sun. Yet she did not let go. You have to trust me, just a little longer, she whispered. Every time the dog wriggled, she gently stroked it, her aged but steady hands persuading it with patience and compassion. Onlookers began to pause, their eyes skeptical at first, then gradually filled with amazement. What is she doing? That dog could be dangerous, a young man exclaimed. Somchai turned, offering a warm smile. Pain and fear are not only for humans. A weak life needs helping hands, too. Her words left some speechless, feeling uneasy about their previous indifference. Finally, after hours, the dog calmed down, its leg temporarily bandaged, exhausted but steady. Somchai patted its head. Now, let's find a safe place for you. The dog slowly stood, looking at her with eyes full of gratitude. Somchai led the dog through the bustling streets, following narrow alleys, and suddenly, the dog stopped, shaking its head, then ran quickly into a small passage. Curious and cautious, Somchai followed. Inside, she heard a faint cry. A young boy sat on the floor, eyes red from crying, looking around in fear. Who are you? She asked softly. The dog jumped up, barking a few times, circling the boy, as if protecting him and drawing attention. Somchai realized this boy was her long-lost grandson, reported missing days ago. Her heart raced, tears welling up. Yes, it's you. Oh, my child, how did you get here? She said, voice trembling, rushing to hug him. The boy collapsed into her arms, sobbing. Grandma, I got lost. I was scared. The dog stood by, as if aware its mission was complete. Samchai looked at it, tears in her eyes. This little one and this child both needed care, kindness, and faith in helping hands. The dog nestled against her, eyes shining, and she smiled, recognizing the miraculous connection between human compassion and the small creature. Returning home, Samchai, her grandson, and the dog walked through familiar streets, each step filled with light and hope. The boy held her hand tightly, looking at the dog with gratitude. Grandma, if it weren't for the dog, I might never have come home. Samchai stroked his hair, smiling warmly. Yes, sometimes compassion and the determination to help a small life can lead us to unexpected things. And today, you have witnessed that miracle. Bangkok's evening lights stretched across rooftops, the river shimmering like a mirror. Samchai looked at the dog with affection. You did well, because of you. My grandson has returned home. Kindness, sometimes, it is the bridge that reconnects lost souls. The dog tilted its head and snuggled close, and Samchai walked with her grandson, heart full of peace, trusting that true compassion always opens miraculous paths, overcoming all obstacles and fear. Story 5. On the edge of the abyss, anger turns to compassion. On the pilgrimage path to the Kailash Temple, where the majestic snow-capped mountains of Tibet touch the sky, Arjun, a determined young Indian man, took each step slowly. The cold wind swept through his hair and clothes, carrying the scent of stone and dry mountain grass. Every step required patience, every breath a mindful rhythm for the spiritual journey he had long envisioned. Yet in his heart, a smoldering anger still burned. Years ago, a man named Ravi had betrayed him in business, plunging Arjun's family into hardship. Each memory made his blood boil, a fierce desire for revenge igniting within. And now, on the narrow mountain trail, fate led him face to face with the very man who had once harmed him. Ravi appeared from the path, his face pale from exhaustion and cold, lost among the snow and rocks. Arjun, what are you doing here? Ravi stammered, voice trembling. Arjun stopped, heart pounding, hands clenched tight. In that instant, the past surged back, the months of betrayal, the long nights of bitterness and frustration. He inhaled sharply, anger erupting like a volcano, almost driving him to strike immediately. But in a moment, the light of the snowy mountains, the serenity of the surroundings, and the rhythm of his own breath reminded Arjun of an important truth. Hatred only binds oneself, not the other. He took a deep breath and stepped toward Ravi, who was teetering on the edge of a slippery cliff. Ravi, grab my hand, Arjun shouted, just in time to pull the former enemy from the perilous brink. Ravi screamed, panic in his eyes, clutching Arjun tightly. Arjun, you saved me. His voice trembled, full of astonishment. Arjun held firm, eyes locked on Ravi, anger now softened into patience and resolve. I could have let you fall, but I won't. Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to let anger imprison me. Once safely away from the cliff, Ravi collapsed to the ground, sweat and tears mingling. Voice quivering, Arjun, I was wrong. I don't know how to make amends. I am sorry. Arjun studied him, every expression, every gesture, sensing sincere remorse. Ravi, apologies now cannot erase the past, but they are a chance to start over. Walk with me. Learn to do right, instead of letting the past control you. Along the narrow mountain path, snow falling lightly, the two walked in silence, a stillness that felt profound rather than heavy. Arjun taught Ravi to accept mistakes, to forgive himself, and most importantly, to not let the past dictate present actions. Every small moment on the pilgrimage became a lesson in compassion and forgiveness, demonstrated through deeds rather than words. One evening, as the sunset bathed the mountain peaks in red, Ravi sat by the fire, hands shaking as he held Arjun's. You've taught me more than I imagined. I thought I would be punished, but now, I feel peace in my heart. Thank you. Arjun smiled, eyes shining with understanding. Forgiveness doesn't just save others, it frees yourself. Let compassion guide you. Over time, the relationship between Arjun and Ravi healed. No longer were there hidden grudges or hatred, only trust, and cooperation. At the foot of Mount Kailash, Ravi turned to Arjun, voice full of gratitude. If you hadn't saved me today, I might still be trapped in bitterness and resentment. Now, I want to live worthy of this chance. Arjun nodded, eyes on the towering snowy peaks. Yes, Ravi, every act of compassion, no matter how small, can transform a life. As night fell, the two former enemies stood on the pilgrimage path, gazing at the starry sky, feeling peace spread through their souls. Anger that once consumed them had been restrained, replaced by compassion, forgiveness, and an unexpected reconciliation neither had anticipated. The mountain wind whispered gently, as if to say that in every challenge, compassion is the bridge, connecting lost hearts, guiding them back to the right path, full of light and hope. The story echoed the lesson of Samkai's dog, reminding Arjun that sometimes, saving one being not only liberates it but also opens the door for humans to recognize the value of compassion. Arjun looked at Ravi, a gentle smile on his lips, heart full of faith that true forgiveness is a miracle, allowing relationships once broken to come alive again, leaving a profound mark on the soul along the snowy pilgrimage path. Topic 2. Parables of Wisdom and Awareness. Story 1. Advice in the Shadows. Of the court. Atop the hill where Rajanagara Palace stood, the morning sun illuminated the golden rooftops, reflecting on the winding river like a silver ribbon. King Devendra, a ruler of great power, yet burdened by the weight of responsibility, walked through the ornate corridors, heavy with the pressure from ministers and factions within the court. Beneath the grandeur, his heart struggled with difficult choices that the court's usual advice could not resolve. The palace this morning felt heavier than usual. A power dispute between two senior ministers had escalated, threatening the stability of the entire kingdom. Invitations, proposals, even warnings of punishment for the opposing faction made Devendra feel off balance. If I favor this side, the other will revolt. But if I try to reconcile, will justice be ignored? He murmured, eyes gazing far out the window toward the river. In that moment of confusion, the king recalled the recommendation of a renowned monk from the distant mountains, known for deep wisdom and the ability to see through the human heart. Without hesitation, Devendra decided to seek him at a small hermitage among the bamboo forest. Upon arrival, the tranquil atmosphere seemed to breathe with nature itself. The monk sat cross-legged, his gaze calm, a gentle smile fleeting across his kind face, instantly soothing those present. Your Majesty has traveled far, across mountains and forests, to seek answers, the monk said, voice soft yet commanding. Devendra bowed, eyes weary and troubled. Venerable one, my court is divided. Both factions claim justice and demand it their own way. If I act with reason, one side will be furious. If I act with compassion, the other will be disappointed. How can the kingdom avoid chaos? The monk closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, then opened them. When a house is torn by two opposing winds, find the pillar that stands firm. That pillar is not power, nor fear, but wisdom and awareness. Devendra frowned. But how can I discern that pillar when greed, anger, and ambition overwhelm me? The monk's gaze deepened. Observe. Listen. Do not judge. When decisions are based on wisdom and awareness, greed and fear naturally retreat. Let justice guide your path, but also see into the hearts of those affected. Devendra fell silent. The monk's words like stones dropped into the calm lake of his mind, sending ripples that gradually dissolved the fog within. He recalled the ministers, not inherently bad, just led by anger and ambition. Then, in a sudden moment of clarity, he realized the solution was not about winning or losing, but guiding people to recognize the right path without coercion or threats. Returning to the palace, Devendra summoned both factions. He stood between them, gaze firm yet not cold. You all have your own reasoning, and all wish for the kingdom's prosperity. But division leads only to collective failure. I will not punish nor favor anyone, but propose a compromise based on the common good and conscience. Who among you is willing to listen? A silence fell, then a senior minister from the opposing faction spoke. Your Majesty, if this is the way to avoid bloodshed and preserve peace, we will follow. That first voice broke the wall of silence, encouraging the others to gradually agree. Devendra smiled, feeling a lightness in his heart. By relying on clear wisdom and observing the human heart, he had guided the court through the storm without losing trust or stability. In the following weeks, the factions began cooperating. Decisions were made without the previous tension and sharp conflicts. Devendra walked through the palace courtyard, observing the ministers working together and listening to one another, a sense of peace spreading within him. A gentle breeze carried the scent of frangipani and eucalyptus, a reminder that wisdom and awareness are the guiding lights that can illuminate even the darkest corners of the human mind. As night fell, the palace glittered with lamplight, yet in the throne room, Devendra sat quietly, eyes on the sparkling river. He thought, when wisdom is grounded in observation and awareness, even the hardest decisions become clear. When greed and anger are restrained, both the kingdom and its people are led toward the right path. The moonlight reflected on the golden rooftops, shimmering across the still water. Devendra looked down at the river, realizing that wisdom is not just advice, but the ability to see through people, balancing reason and emotion, so that every decision becomes correct and benefits all. In that moment, King Devendra understood that deep awareness had transformed turmoil into opportunity, and the light of wisdom had illuminated the entire court, guiding them from confusion to clarity, from conflict to harmony, and from fear to freedom of the mind. Story 2. The Storm, the Dog, and the Little Monk's Heart. In an ancient temple nestled among the misty mountains of Japan, young novice monk Kaido stepped out into the courtyard on a windy afternoon. Gray clouds rolled in, and the cold wind whipped across the curved roof tiles, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Though only 12, Kaido was accustomed to the silent hours of meditation and daily chores of the temple. But today, an unexpected storm made his heart both anxious and alert. As the wind howled through the trees, Kaido heard a faint whimper coming from beyond the stone fence. He ran over and discovered a small dog under a moss-covered tree, its fur matted and shivering from the cold. "Oh, how did you end up here all alone in this storm?" Kaido asked, his voice trembling but full of concern. The dog looked at him silently, eyes wide with fear. Quickly, Kaido wrapped the dog in his robe, but the wind howled violently, cutting through him to the bone. He realized that if he didn't find shelter immediately, the dog wouldn't survive the storm. He carried it across the courtyard to a wooden room near the temple, where a few thin blankets and the warmth of the fire awaited. "Here, you'll be safe. Don't be afraid, I will protect you," he whispered, placing the dog in the warm space. Yet, as Kaido stepped back outside to secure the temple doors against the wind, a large branch suddenly fell, blocking his path. The dog looked at him with urgent eyes. Kaido froze, heart pounding, realizing the branch could crush him if he moved incorrectly. Then, unexpectedly, the dog acted. It lunged forward, pushing Kaido out of harm's way, preventing a serious accident. Kaido fell, gasping, staring at the dog in amazement and deep emotion. You saved me? Oh, thank you so much." The dog barked softly, wagging its tail, as if to say, "I'm grateful you saved me too." The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the small wooden room, Kaido and the dog sat together, both shivering yet feeling warmth spreading from their hearts. The boy realized that compassion was not only about helping weaker beings, it was an invisible thread connecting two souls, allowing them to become each other's saviors in the most difficult moments. The next morning, the storm cleared, and sunlight illuminated the temple's roof and the stone path leading down the mountain. Kaido and the dog strolled through the garden, feeling the peace that follows a storm. "We survived the danger, but it was your courage and my compassion that kept us both alive," he said to the dog, eyes sparkling with joy. Word of the little monk and the clever dog quickly spread throughout the village, serving as living proof that compassion and awareness not only save others, but also protect oneself. Kaido learned that sometimes a spontaneous act of kindness can set off a chain of events leading to survival and a deep bond between beings. He continued to care for the dog, naming it Hikari, light, as a symbol of their newly formed relationship. Each morning, while sweeping the temple courtyard and cleaning fallen leaves, Hikari followed, hopping and playing joyfully. Kaido thought to himself, if I hadn't faced the storm and rescued you yesterday, we might both have been lost. Courage and compassion sometimes are the guiding light in the darkest days. Another afternoon, as Kaido climbed the steps to hang a bell, he slipped and nearly fell. Hikari rushed to push him out of danger once again, just like during the storm. Kaido hugged Hikari tightly, tears welling up, realizing their bond had become inseparable. Through compassion and courage, they had overcome challenges together, learning how to live and protect one another. From that time on, villagers often saw Kaido and Hikari together, a vivid symbol of the relationship between wisdom, awareness, and compassion, where acts of rescue not only transform lives, but also create unexpected opportunities, lessons, and deep connections between beings, forming a chain of small but meaningful miracles in the daily lives of humans and the creatures around them. Story 3. The Jewel, the Merchant, and an Unexpected Choice. London in the late 19th century was shrouded in fog, the cobblestone streets damp from the morning mist. In a luxurious townhouse on Bishopsgate Street, merchant Edmund Whitmore was inspecting his collection of precious gems. The ruby, the most valuable piece in his collection, was no longer in its velvet box. His heart raced, cold sweat trickling down his forehead. No, it can't be. The ruby, it's gone. Edmund whispered, eyes wide with shock and anger. He immediately summoned the servants and household staff. Search every corner. Whoever dared do this, find them at once, he commanded, his voice steady but laced with anxiety. The staff ransacked every room and hidden nook, yet the ruby remained missing. Edmund felt his heart tighten with disappointment and the rising tide of anger. A week passed with no trace. Determined, Edmund decided to follow the trail himself. Near the docks, he spotted a figure moving stealthily, carrying a small bag, slipping through dark alleys. Edmund recognized the thief instantly. Without hesitation, he followed, his heart tense, eyes sharp with determination. The figure entered an old workshop, where the flicker of a candle reflected off peeling walls. Edmund hid behind the door, observing the thief place the ruby on a table. The thief was a young man, face anxious, hands trembling. If I don't return it, he will punish me. But if I do, I will have nothing to survive on, the young man murmured. Edmund stood there, heart torn between anger and compassion, realizing the fear and ambition driving this youth. The climax came when the young man noticed a shadow behind him and startled. You are the owner of the ruby, he stammered, eyes filled with fear. Edmund stepped forward, calm but firm. I do not wish to punish you. You were afraid, and that fear led you astray. But look at this ruby, it's true. Value is not in its color or price. The young man blinked, confused. Edmund gently placed a hand on his shoulder. I will return the ruby, but with one condition. You must learn to recognize true value, not material things, but honesty, integrity, and gratitude. The young man bowed, tears streaming. Sir, you are so kind. I will learn. I promise. In the following days, Edmund guided the young man, helping him find a job in his jewelry shop, teaching him the craft, how to care for gems, and, more importantly, how to appreciate human life and integrity. Gradually, the youth became diligent, careful, and his eyes no longer reflected fear but gratitude and confidence. Edmund also realized a lesson from the experience. Anger and greed bring nothing but suffering. By choosing forgiveness and guidance, he healed a relationship and discovered that the true value of the ruby lay not in the gem itself, but in the opportunity it offered to cultivate compassion and wisdom. One quiet London afternoon, after the rain had passed, Edmund stood by the window, looking out at streets bathed in golden sunlight. The young man stood beside him, holding the ruby, eyes filled with respect and gratitude. The ruby is not just gold or stone. It is a lesson, an opportunity to change oneself, Edmund thought, deeply feeling the value of forgiveness and compassion that had taken root in both their hearts. From that day, Edmund and the young man built a special mentor-student relationship, where forgiveness, understanding, and wisdom came alive in every action and word. The ruby became a symbol of transformation, reminding them that even in mistakes and desire, compassion and awareness can light the path, turning anger and greed into opportunities to learn, grow, and form deep connections with those around them. Every time Edmund touched the ruby, he smiled, not for its material value, but for the priceless lesson it carried, that forgiveness and compassion can change lives, open the door to awareness, and illuminate the human path from the shadows of greed and anger. The story ends with both of them looking out over bustling London streets, eyes shining with trust and hope, ready to face all challenges ahead with calm hearts and clear minds. Story 4. The Boy, the Turtle, and the Unexpected Flood. One rainy morning in central Vietnam, 12-year-old Nam ran along the riverbank near his village. Last night's rain had swollen the river, the water rushing violently, carrying silver waves. The damp air, mixed with the scent of wet earth, made Nam feel both excited and cautious. As he played near the river, he suddenly saw a large turtle lying stranded on the shore, its shell covered in mud, seemingly swept by the current and trapped. "Oh, little turtle, how did you end up here all alone in this flood?" Nam exclaimed, stepping closer. The turtle barely moved, curling into its shell, wet and glistening in the dim morning light. Nam's heart raced, a mixture of compassion and fear. He knew the river was dangerous at this time, but seeing the turtle struggling, he couldn't bear to leave it behind. Carefully, he lifted the turtle, his hands trembling from the force of the water. I have to get you back to the water, but what if the flood sweeps me away?" he thought. His mind tugged between fear and empathy. Taking a deep breath, he focused on each step, making sure not to slip on the slick mud along the bank. The river surged higher, waves crashing at his feet, almost knocking him over. Yet Nam refused to give up. "I can do this. I just need to bring you to safety," he whispered, determination firm. The turtle seemed to sense his concern, withdrawing slightly, letting Nam guide it safely through the currents. As they reached a safer, shallower part of the river, a sudden surge of water threatened to sweep Nam away. He cried out in panic, "Help! Somebody help me!" At that moment, the turtle emerged, using its sturdy shell to steady Nam, preventing him from being carried too far. Nam grasped the turtle tightly, feeling the invisible strength and calm the small creature provided. When the floodwaters finally receded, Nam and the turtle reached the riverbank safely. He gently placed the turtle on the ground, breathing heavily but filled with joy and gratitude. You saved me. Thank you so much," Nam whispered, stroking its shell. The turtle slowly dipped back into the water, as if answering, "I was saved by your courage and compassion too." Word of the boy and the turtle quickly spread throughout the village. The villagers saw not just bravery, but also the power of compassion. Nam realized that sometimes courageous, caring actions speak louder than words, showing love through decisions made between life and death, fear and empathy. After that morning, Nam often returned to the riverbank, helping other stranded animals safely back into the water. The large turtle frequently appeared, swimming near the shore, a loyal companion who had once helped him overcome danger. Every time he saw the turtle, Nam smiled, reminded that compassion not only saves others but also teaches courage, awareness, and the deep connection among all living beings. The rainy season passed, and the river became calm again. Nam grew older, but the memory of that morning with the turtle remained vivid in his heart. In every act of helping, he recalled the turtle's gaze, reminding him that compassion and courage not only save lives but illuminate the path of wisdom and understanding, ensuring that every creature on earth is respected and protected. Thus, that fateful morning became an unforgettable milestone in the boy's life, where a single courageous moment during the flood planted seeds of compassion and awareness, transforming a small creature into a faithful companion who helped him navigate a severe trial, and opening a precious lesson on the relationship between humans and nature, courage and unconditional love. Story 5. The Shopkeeper and the Mysterious Customer. On a warm April afternoon in Florence, sunlight streamed diagonally through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patches on the old tiled floor. Inside his antique ceramic shop, Mr. Marco meticulously polished green, brown, and golden glazed vases arranged carefully on tiered shelves. The scent of fired clay, glaze, and aged wood filled the space, creating a quiet yet warm atmosphere. Marco, with his graying hair and sharp eyes, always took pride in his ability to recognize the true value of each item, not just by its outward appearance. The bell above the door jingled. A man in a black suit entered, looking polite but carrying a subtle air of mystery that immediately caught Marco's attention. "Good afternoon, Mr. Marco," the stranger greeted, his voice deep yet convincing. Marco nodded and smiled politely. "Welcome. Please feel free to look around. If anything interests you, I'd be happy to introduce it." The stranger paused in front of a small vase, its jade green glaze shimmering in the sunlight. Marco recognized it as one of the rare pieces in his collection whose true value few could appreciate. The customer spoke, his tone calm and firm. "This vase is truly special. Its real value is much higher than it appears." Marco furrowed his brow, a mix of curiosity and caution stirring within him. Is he telling the truth, or is he testing me? Marco wondered, his heart racing with tension and intrigue. The stranger continued to browse the shop, observing other items before returning to the green vase. "I know many people won't understand the value of these items. They would offer far too little. I'm here not to buy cheaply, but to help you recognize its true worth," he said, a light smile revealing sincerity. Marco sensed the difference. In the customer's eyes, there was no greed, only a refined understanding. The tension peaked when Marco noticed a subtle detail in the man's words that surprised and worried him. He seemed to know about the vase's glaze, something only someone deeply familiar with the craft could identify. Marco's hand tightened, his mind racing. Can I trust him? Or is he trying to deceive me? He stood still, eyes fixed on the stranger, feeling the pulse quicken in his chest. The customer met Marco's gaze, calm and warm. "Mr. Marco, I understand your caution. I don't expect you to trust me immediately. I only hope you will listen to what I have to say." Marco inhaled deeply, silently telling himself, "Perhaps I should trust my intuition, trust the honesty in people, rather than let doubt take over my mind." He stepped closer to the customer, voice steady. "All right, tell me why you believe this vase is so valuable." The man smiled, glanced around the shop, and spoke slowly. "This vase comes from a 17th century ceramic line, with a unique glaze found in only a few places in the world. Its value is not merely material, but lies in its history, the story, and the perseverance of the artisans who created it. I came here to help you see that sometimes we fail to recognize true worth right before our eyes." Marco fell silent, absorbing each word. He looked back at the vase, remembering the years spent researching, seeking, and collecting each piece. He realized that if he had let doubt rule, he might have missed this precious guidance. Marco met the customer's eyes, filled with respect. You truly helped me avoid a mistake." "Thank you." The stranger nodded, placing a hand gently on Marco's shoulder. Sometimes, trust and compassion are the only ways to perceive true value, not just in objects, but in life and the decisions we make. A quiet settled over the shop. The golden light from the window reflected off the vase's surface, sparkling like tiny stars. Marco felt a profound relief and joy filling his heart. He touched the vase, took a deep breath, and watched the customer walk away through the glass door, moving gracefully as if carrying all the mystery and wisdom he had shared. The next day, Marco began rearranging the shop, not only to display the items, but also to remind himself of an important lesson. Trust and compassion have the power to transform decisions, opening doors and connecting people in subtle ways. Every customer who entered, he welcomed with caution but also with trust, realizing that actions stemming from sincerity always yield deep results. As evening fell, the sunset painted Florence's rooftops with radiant colors, reflecting off tiles and ceramics. Marco stood before his shop, eyes following the customer's path, heart full of gratitude and awareness of the true value of trust and compassion. He held the vase gently, stroking it and smiling. Not gold or possessions, but understanding, openness, and the ability to trust others, that is true value. In the following weeks, Marco often shared the story with friends and loyal customers, not to boast about the vase or the mysterious visitor, but to emphasize the power of trust and compassion in every decision. He taught that when we choose forgiveness, trust, and understanding, even seemingly ordinary moments in life become opportunities to learn, grow, and connect with others. Marco realized that compassion does not only help others, it also protects oneself from mistakes, from unnecessary doubt, and from bitterness. The jade green vase was no longer just a display piece. It had become a living symbol of the lesson in trust, forgiveness, and deep recognition of human value. He placed the vase back on its shelf, the last rays of daylight glinting on it, a reminder of responsibility and the opportunity to live with an open heart. Every time Marco looked at the vase, he saw himself standing at a choice: doubt or trust, anger or forgiveness. And he smiled, knowing he had chosen trust, compassion, and understanding. Outside, Florence's life flowed as usual, but within the small shop, Marco felt a slow, profound rhythm, where each sincere act created invisible yet timeless value, teaching him to cherish people, life, and his own heart in the most delicate way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Marco stood by the window, a soft smile forming, heart brimming with gratitude for the lesson from a mysterious visitor, the jade green vase, and the insight that trust and compassion not only prevent mistakes, but also open new ways of seeing the world. Where every compassionate action plants seeds of change, trust creates opportunity, and an open heart becomes the most precious treasure that no object can match. He placed the vase gently back on the shelf, sunlight dancing across its glaze, whispering to himself, "Always trust, always forgive, and always listen to your heart." For from that, the true value of life and people is revealed. Topic 3. Parables of Patience and Letting Go. Story 1. The Little Bird Amid the Storm. In the northern skies of Thailand, as the first rays of dawn illuminated the lush green mountains, a small flock of sparrows soared above, searching for favorable winds to guide their journey. Among them was a little bird named Lamb, still covered in soft feathers, wings not yet strong, but endlessly curious about the world. Each morning, Lamb practiced flying, foraging for food, and occasionally separating from the flock to test his own abilities against small challenges. That day, while Lamb circled above a bamboo grove, the sky began to darken. Black clouds rolled in, winds howled through the trees, and distant thunder rumbled across the valley. The older birds of the flock called to one another, urging, "The storm is coming. Return to the nest." But Lamb wanted to fly higher, to explore and test his limits. He could feel the raw power of nature as the wind began to whip violently, raindrops falling like tiny diamonds from the sky. Suddenly, the storm struck. The wind lashed, rain poured, and chaos enveloped the sky. Lamb struggled to flap his wings, but the gusts threatened to sweep him away. "I must be patient. I must be patient," he told himself, eyes fixed on the distant flock. The wind tore at his wings, tossing him around, yet he refused to give up. Each flap became a choice for survival. Each temporary perch on a branch was an opportunity to rest and regain strength. Meanwhile, an elder bird from the flock watched Lamb from afar, calling out, "Lamb, let go. Do not fight the wind. Allow it to carry you to safety." Lamb froze. He had never considered letting go as a way to survive. He always fought every challenge head-on. Yet now, he realized that patience was not merely resisting the storm, but knowing when to yield, when to cooperate with the natural flow. Lamb drew a deep breath, accepting the reality that the storm was beyond his control. He let himself drift with the wind, seeking higher branches for temporary refuge. The rain pelted down, yet he no longer felt fear. Instead, his mind focused, eyes scanning every flash of light between the black clouds. He understood that letting go did not mean defeat. Rather, it was a wise method to survive, learning from nature and his own experience. The storm raged for hours, each moment a new challenge. Lamb floated with the wind while observing the surroundings. He saw other birds, smaller or older, struggling to find shelter. He tried to guide those near him, chirping directions towards safe branches. His patience and inner strength seemed to radiate, a reminder that no one survives alone, and that all living beings are connected in moments of greatest danger. The climax came when Lamb was caught in a powerful whirl of wind, nearly losing control of his wings. He cried out, "I must stay calm. I must let go and trust the flow." Closing his eyes, he allowed his body to drift, feeling each gust, each swirl of cold air wrapping around his small frame. A sense of relief washed over him as he realized that only through letting go and exercising patience could he survive. As the storm gradually subsided, clouds parted, and the sun broke through. Lamb was exhausted but filled with joy. Looking around, he spotted his flock ahead, wings flapping in welcome. Flying toward them, his heart raced, but the happiness of safety outweighed all fatigue. Lamb understood that his survival and growth was due to patience in the storm, to yielding when necessary, and to trusting the flow of nature. Landing on a high branch, raindrops still clinging to his feathers, an elder bird called, "You have learned to listen to the wind, to know when to fight and when to let go." Lamb smiled, deeply appreciating the wisdom. He recalled every struggle, every temporary perch, and every decision to drift with the currents of nature. Each action was a lesson, teaching the power of patience and the skill of letting go. As the afternoon faded, sunlight glinted off leaves and wet feathers like tiny jewels. Lamb perched quietly, watching the flock, realizing that life was not just about fighting, but learning to be patient and to let go at the right moment. He recognized that letting go was not surrender, but a wise way to respect natural laws, to protect oneself and others. In the following days, Lamb flew with his flock differently. His heart and spirit had changed. He no longer rushed, no longer resisted every challenge blindly, but observed, learned, and chose the right moment to act. Every flight became meaningful. Every flap of his wings carried lessons in patience, self-trust, and knowing when to release control. As the sun set, casting orange and purple across the treetops, Lamb breathed deeply. Eyes on the wide sky, he realized that the storm had tested not only his body but his spirit, teaching him that survival sometimes comes from flexibility, from patience, and from letting go of what cannot be controlled. He inhaled slowly, wings trembling lightly, smiling. "I have learned patience and how to let go." Lamb glided on the wind, blending with his flock, eyes shining with newfound trust and understanding. The vast sky no longer seemed threatening, but a school where every challenge was a lesson. Each gust, each rain, each flap of the wings was an opportunity to grow, to learn patience, and to release at the right time. As the sunset painted the horizon, Lamb and the flock returned to the nest, the sky ablaze with orange and violet. He realized that through the storm, through the moments of struggle and learning to let go, he had grown stronger, more resilient, and able to appreciate the value of patience and courage in every moment. The final light of day reflected on his feathers like proof of the lesson. Life is about patience, knowing when to release, and trusting that challenges can lead to safety, growth, and true happiness. From that moment, Lamb flew each day with confidence, no longer fearful of wind or storm, but listening to nature, letting go when necessary, and most importantly, understanding that patience and flexibility are the keys to overcoming life's challenges and finding true peace and joy. Story 2. The Fire in the Forest and a Patient Heart. In a small village in northern India, where vast fields stretched endlessly, and ancient trees towered over the land, a boy named Arjun was playing with other children. Arjun was full of energy, mischievous, yet endlessly curious about the world around him. Each morning, he ran along the red dirt roads, flew kites in the blue sky, and sometimes accompanied his parents to the fields, learning to sow seeds and care for the crops. One sunny afternoon, while Arjun was playing near the edge of the forest, he suddenly noticed smoke rising from among the dense trees. At first, it was just a thin wisp, but in moments, bright flames began to spread, licking at the dry tree trunks. Arjun felt his heart tighten, an alarming sensation gripping him. He ran quickly toward the village, shouting, Fire! Fire in the forest! Everyone hurry! The villagers panicked. Immediately, the adults grabbed buckets of water and tree branches to try to extinguish the flames, while children ran into houses looking for their parents. But Arjun did not stop. He felt a great responsibility on his shoulders. He had to save the forest, the houses, and the fields of the village. Arjun ran into the forest, where the flames were spreading rapidly, smoke stinging his eyes, and the wind fanning the fire in every direction. The climax began when Arjun faced a particularly fierce part of the burning forest. The flames seemed determined to block his path. He took a deep breath, silently repeating to himself, "I must be patient, step by step, no fear." He scooped water from a nearby stream, extinguishing smaller flames, even as other fires continued to spread. Every step was a difficult decision, balancing his safety with the responsibility to save the village. At that moment, an elder from the village ran up, shouting, "Arjun, come back. The fire is too strong. You'll be in danger." Arjun turned, tears glistening in his eyes. "I can't turn back. If no one stops the fire, the entire village will burn. I must be patient. Step by step, step by step." He ran toward the next patch of fire, jumping over burning branches, sweat and smoke mixing together, yet he remained calm and focused. Small explosions echoed as the fire hit dry trunks, creating a terrifying yet challenging scene. Arjun carefully observed the water flow and wind direction, using every means to control the fire, patiently persisting without giving up. A tense moment arrived when the flames threatened to reach a wooden house. Arjun sprinted forward, heart pounding, sweat streaming down his forehead. "Just a little more. I must make it." He scooped bucket after bucket of water, extinguishing the fire before it could reach the roof. The family inside cried out, You saved us." Arjun nodded, taking a deep breath, exhausted but filled with joy. After hours of struggling with the fire, Arjun and the villagers finally brought it under control. The forest and village were no longer in danger. Children cheered. Adults embraced the boy, looking at Arjun with amazement and gratitude. "We thought we had lost everything," one elder said. "But thanks to Arjun, we still have it all." Arjun sat by the stream, watching the last embers fade, his body still smoky and sweaty. He smiled, realizing that only through patience in every action, through calmness in the face of danger, could he save the village. Every bucket of water, every jump over the flames, was a lesson in the power of patience and composure. As the sun set, painting the sky orange, Arjun stood up, tired but spiritually fulfilled. He looked around and saw the village safe, the people smiling, children playing, understanding that patience and courage had helped everyone overcome the challenge. He recalled every tense moment, every small decision, every calm action, each contributed to saving the entire village. As night fell, the village returned to peaceful quiet. Houses stood intact, the forest remained green. Yet Arjun never forgot the lesson of the fire. Patience and focus in danger can change the outcome, and sometimes letting go of fear, letting courage guide the way, is the only way to save what matters most. He breathed deeply, gazing at the starry night sky, knowing that every challenge could be overcome with patience and persistence. From that moment, Arjun became a model for the village. People spoke of him with pride. That is the boy who saved the village with patience and courage. But for Arjun, he only smiled, knowing that what mattered most was not fame, but the lesson of patience, courage, and the ability to let go of fear to do what is right. He understood that life's greatest challenges demand a calm heart, perseverance, and knowing when to release control to protect what is most precious, the lives and happiness of those around you. From then on, whenever Arjun saw a flame in the kitchen or the first rain of the season, he would quietly repeat to himself, "Patience and letting go, this is how to overcome any challenge." These lessons stayed with him for life, reminding him that true courage is not rushing blindly into danger, but being patient, focused, and knowing when to release in order to overcome every trial. Story 3. The Mother and the Seeds of Patience. On a low hill on the outskirts of Kyoto, Japan, where the land was dry and the wind often blew throughout the year, a young mother named Hannah began sowing seeds in her small garden in front of her house. Hannah was a gentle, meticulous, and compassionate woman, always believing that every small act in life carried a valuable lesson. That morning, as the sun rose, she carefully held each seed, knelt down on the soil, placing each one into prepared furrows, murmuring to herself, "Be patient, Hannah, everything will come at the right time." But the weather was not favorable. Day after day, the sky remained clear and dry, and the seeds seemed to lie dormant beneath the cracked, hard soil with no sign of sprouting. Hannah stood by the garden, rubbing the soil, gazing at the sky, sighing, yet never giving up. "Just a little rain, and we will see the miracle," she whispered to herself. The story's tension began to rise as the sun grew hotter, the soil cracked further, and the neighbors started doubting her decision. "Hannah, are you sure you should keep going? This soil is so dry, the seeds will just die," one neighbor remarked, eyes full of concern and confusion. Hannah smiled, continuing to water each seed carefully, making sure they stayed moist. "I will wait. Seeds have their own life. With patience and care, they will bloom." Over the following days, the sky remained dry, yet Hannah did not falter. Every morning, she went to the garden, observing each seed, removing weeds, watering, and talking to them as if they were her children. "Be strong, live. I believe in you," she spoke gently, eyes shining with hope. Even when the harsh sun and dry wind made the soil more arid, she persisted. One afternoon, as the golden sunlight bathed the garden, Hannah noticed a subtle rustling. She knelt down, peering closely, and saw a tiny green sprout breaking through the cracked soil. Her heart swelled with joy. You've awakened," she cried, tears streaming down her face. Yet her smile radiated pure happiness. Yet the challenge was not over. A strong wind swept through, shaking the garden, threatening the fragile sprouts. Hannah pressed her hand to the soil, lowering her chest to the ground as if to transfer strength to each sprout. "Patience, don't be afraid. I am here with you," she whispered. Over the next days, she continued protecting the sprouts, shielding them from wind, nurturing them with water and love, until they rooted firmly in the earth. The climax escalated when a storm arrived one night. Torrential rain and booming thunder filled the air, yet Hannah remained steadfast. She covered the young plants with thin cloths, placing her hands on the wet soil, murmuring, "The rain will come, but do not let the children be swept away. Be patient, we will endure." The next morning, as the storm passed, Hannah ran to the garden. Before her eyes, the young sprouts stood firm, healthier than ever. The seeds had blossomed into the first flowers, vibrant and brilliant against the once barren land. Happiness overwhelmed her heart. "It was all patience. It was all worth it," she whispered, eyes glistening with tears, yet her smile shone brighter than ever. In the days that followed, Hannah's garden became a colorful spectacle, alive with the hues of many flowers. Neighbors marveled, curious how such beautiful flowers could grow on arid soil. Hannah simply smiled warmly at the blossoms. With patience and care, miracles can happen. Hannah did not just plant seeds in the soil. She sowed seeds of faith and patience in the hearts of those around her. People began to follow her example, learning how to nurture a garden, learning to be patient, learning to wait without giving up. Stories of Hannah's garden spread throughout the village, inspiring both children and adults, reminding everyone that in life, patience and perseverance lead to unexpected and magnificent outcomes. One evening, Hannah stood amidst her blooming garden, watching the flowers sway in the sunset's golden glow, taking a deep breath, inhaling the fragrance that filled the air. She whispered to herself, "Sometimes, waiting and caring with all your heart creates miracles no one expects. Patience is the strength of the soul, and letting go of haste opens the door to glorious seasons of bloom." From that moment on, Hannah became a symbol for the entire village of patience and belief in the goodness of life. She continued tending her garden, but now each action was filled with calm and joy. The flowers bloomed not only in the soil, but in the minds of those who admired them, reminding everyone that patience, courage, and waiting are the keys to welcoming life's miracles. Hannah smiled, watching the petals dance in the wind, silently affirming, "Patience, letting go this, is how every seed in life can blossom brilliantly." From then on, her story was not only about flowers but also about a patient heart, knowing how to wait and never give up, a living lesson in the power of patience and letting go. Story 4. The Pilgrim and the River of Letting Go. On the vast plateaus of Tibet, where the cold wind cut through the skin and the sunlight angled across snow-covered peaks, a pilgrim named Tenzin carefully made his way along a narrow mountain path. He had walked hundreds of miles from a distant monastery, carrying a deep yearning for peace and enlightenment. On his shoulder was a worn cloth bag containing a few essential items, and in his heart, a mixture of anxiety and determination. As the sun began to set, Tenzin reached the bank of a wide, turbulent river. The water, cold and fast-flowing from the melting snow of distant peaks, seemed to challenge every step. He stood still for a moment, observing the raging current, his heart pounding, breath quickening. "How can I possibly cross this?" he wondered. Around him, only the sound of the wind whistling through cliffs and the roar of water filled the air, yet inside, fear was growing. He scanned the river carefully, looking for large stones or half-submerged branches that could provide footholds. Tenzin drew a deep breath and reminded himself, "Stay calm. Everything will become clear if you are patient and mindful." But the first step into the river sent a chill straight to his bones. The current pushed against his legs, threatening to sweep him away. "Oh no!" he cried, stepping back, heart racing, body trembling. Sitting on the riverbank, he closed his eyes and recalled the teachings of his old master. Sometimes, to move forward, you must let go of your fear. When you release, the path will reveal itself. Those words echoed in his mind, yet fear still clung tightly. He inhaled deeply, exhaling slowly. "I must trust the river, not fight it," he whispered to himself. Taking a careful second step into the water, Tenzin allowed himself to flow with the current instead of resisting it. He placed his feet on uneven stones, grasped half-submerged branches, and moved cautiously. The water was still icy and strong, yet he sensed a difference. By letting go and moving with the river rather than against it, he began to advance, each step a careful negotiation with the current. At one point, the river surged violently, knocking him off balance. Panic flared within, but he reminded himself, "Release, do not fear, trust." Breathing steadily, he closed his eyes, allowing his body to move with the river's flow. When he opened his eyes, the opposite bank was visible, distant yet clear, a promise of safety. Step by step, Tenzin navigated, hands gripping branches, feet finding secure stones, the river guiding him inch by inch. Every motion was a struggle between fear and trust. He murmured to himself, "With patience and faith, every difficulty can be overcome." Finally, his feet touched solid ground on the opposite shore. Exhausted and soaked, he sank to his knees. But inside, a profound calm filled him. The sunset cast a golden glow across the river, reflecting a shimmer on the rushing water. Tenzin looked at the flowing current and smiled softly, thinking, "I have learned to let go. When you stop resisting, the way forward becomes clear." He sat for a moment, recalling each heartbeat of fear, every deep breath of calm, and each careful step of trust. Each moment had become a lesson in patience, listening to life, and surrendering the ego to harmonize with nature. Rising to his feet, Tenzin continued along the mountain path, heart light and serene. He realized the river had not only guided him across treacherous terrain, but also led him to deeper self-understanding. Faith, patience, and the ability to let go had enabled him to overcome a challenge that had once seemed insurmountable. Tenzin looked back at the river, laughing, reminding himself that sometimes, to overcome the greatest challenges, one must let go of all worries and fears, and trust in the natural flow of life, allowing life itself to guide the way. The sun set behind the mountains, its brilliant light reflecting on the water, as an affirmation that intensity and letting go will lead to a peaceful and liberating shore. Story 5. The Farmer and the Cotton Plant of Patience. In a vast field in southern France, where golden sunlight stretched across the grass and the wind carried the scent of the earth, there lived a farmer named Pierre. Every day, he woke up when the sun was still low over the mountains, hands gripping his hoe, eyes fixed on the empty rows of soil waiting for care. Pierre was diligent, yet calm, always believing that what was sown with patience would yield worthy results. Pierre had received a small cotton plant from an old friend with a simple message. Take care of this plant carefully. It will bring joy to your life, but do not rush to see the results. At first, the plant was tiny, fragile, and weak. Pierre dug the soil, fertilized it, and watered it drop by drop, day after day. People in the village saw him meticulously tending a plant that had not yet bloomed and shook their heads, even laughing. Pierre, you're foolish. One small plant, and you spend the whole year caring for it with nothing to harvest. Your time is wasted. But Pierre only smiled and replied gently, every day I learn from it, not from the flowers or fruits. Learning patience is itself a flower that blooms within the heart. The first summer passed, and still, the cotton plant did not bloom. Pierre felt the exhaustion in his hands, the creeping frustration in his heart. One afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the fields were bathed in soft golden light, Pierre sighed, looking at the tiny plant swaying in the wind. Do you appreciate this care? Can we wait a little longer? In the following days, unpredictable rains fell, and the soil cracked under the sun. Yet Pierre continued to water, weed, and protect the plant from pests. Sometimes, strong winds tore a few leaves, rains soaked the soil, and the plant seemed ready to give up, but Pierre remained. Holding a stake for support, eyes attentive, I will not abandon you. Whether you endure or not, I will stay by your side. Winter arrived, frost thickened over the fields, yet Pierre did not stop. Tending the cotton plant, enduring the biting cold and the villagers' teasing. Night after night, he sat beside the plant, talking to it as to a friend, be patient. One day the flowers will bloom. I will wait, and together we will endure every hardship. Time passed, each season flowing into the next, and Pierre gradually sensed the quiet vitality within the plant. Its roots delved deeper into the soil, its stem grew stronger, and though no flower appeared, his heart remained full of hope. Patience had become his breath, the pulse of his days, and the calm in the face of unspoken challenges. One spring morning, Pierre stepped into the field under the pure light of dawn and was stunned by a burst of color among the green leaves, a pristine white cotton flower, blooming full of life. Not just one, but many tiny blossoms appeared in succession, spreading a delicate fragrance across the field. Pierre stood still, eyes wide, heart trembling with an unexpected joy he had never felt. He knelt by the plant, touching the soft petals, whispering, finally, our patience has been rewarded. Every hardship, every disappointment has led to this moment. The cotton plant seemed to sway in the sunlight as if responding to Pierre's words, sensing the joy and love the farmer had poured into it. The villagers came to look and gasped in amazement. They saw Pierre, aged but smiling, standing amid a field filled with cotton blooms. Some could not help but exclaim, Pierre, how could you be so patient for so long? Pierre smiled gently and replied, flowers bloom at the right time. So does patience. As long as you maintain faith and love, the results will come. You cannot rush them. Standing in the field, breathing in the scent of flowers, Pierre felt a profound tranquility. The joy did not stem merely from the cotton flowers blooming, but from years of patient care, from every drop of sweat, from every reminder to himself that patience and letting go are seeds of happiness. Pierre looked at the vibrant flowers in the morning light and smiled kindly. Be patient, let go, and you will witness miracles in unexpected ways. In that moment, all disappointments, hardships, and trials seemed to vanish, leaving only peace and the unexpected beauty of life. The field was filled with the scent of cotton flowers. Pierre sat beside the plant, eyes following petals dancing in the wind. He reflected on each season, each patient day of care, realizing that the process itself, not the result, had taught him the most about patience, letting go, and the unexpected joy that life could bring. The leaves swayed with the wind, the flowers reflected the sunlight, and Pierre smiled at everything he had experienced. In that quiet moment, he knew that patience and letting go had become inseparable parts of his life, and the blooming cotton flowers were living proof of that truth. Pierre rose, looking toward the horizon where the morning light shone, heart filled with gratitude, telling himself that from now on, any challenge could be overcome, as long as he knew patience and when to let go. The field remained quietly vast, but now each flower served as a vivid reminder of the power of patience and compassion. With a smile on his face and eyes shining with joy, Pierre walked through the field, blending with nature, and experiencing a simple yet complete happiness that the long journey of caring for the cotton plant had given him through the seasons. Theme 4. Fables of Courage and Integrity. 4.1 The Battle Under the Moon, When Courage Speaks. In a small village nestled among the endless rice fields of Korea, where red dirt paths wound around tile-roofed houses, there lived a young man named Min Jun. Tall, with bright eyes yet a contemplative expression, Min Jun was a young warrior trained from childhood in traditional martial arts under his father's guidance. His father, a retired soldier who had once defended the northern border, often told Min Jun that courage was not only physical strength, but also the steadfastness in facing life's most difficult choices. One August night, with the full moon hanging in the sky like a giant silver disk, the village suddenly erupted with screams. A group of invaders from the east had crossed the border silently but with deadly intent, aiming to loot food and terrorize the villagers. The sound of horse hooves and clashing metal shattered the night's calm. The villagers panicked, scattering in all directions, while Min Jun stood still in the shadows, feeling his heart race, but his mind remained clear. His father appeared beside him, voice firm. Min Jun, today is the moment. You must choose your path. To stand by or step forward, everything depends on your courage. Min Jun nodded, eyes fixed on the village, where small fires were beginning to rise from the villagers' homes. He silently vowed, not for myself, but for them. I must protect them. He grabbed his sword, the steel gleaming in the moonlight, and stepped into the open. His heart pounded. Yet each step was deliberate, the will of a warrior honed through years of training. He thought not of his own survival, but of the children, the elderly, the neighbors praying in the dark. As he approached the invaders, Min Jun saw their leader, a tall officer, giving commands in a confident yet cold voice. Hurry up! We have no time for the weak. Min Jun drew a deep breath and shouted, You will not touch this village. The officer looked at the young man with derision, but Min Jun did not waver. They clashed, swords striking, sparks flying under the moon. Each strike was not only skill, but the embodiment of will and integrity. Min Jun knew that retreating would endanger the villagers. Fleeing would mean food, livestock, and peace would be lost. From afar, the villagers began gathering, watching Min Jun fight alone like a lone wolf against a black pack. A child exclaimed, Uncle Min Jun, isn't he afraid? An elderly man clutched his hands, eyes blurred with emotion. Courage, he embodies courage and integrity. In the midst of battle, Min Jun realized the enemy's strength in numbers was overwhelming. He was pushed back, step by step. His sword fell, yet he did not fall. Bending down to retrieve it, he looked his opponent straight in the eye, a determined gaze that made the officer hesitate for a moment. This boy, how foolish! The officer shouted, yet the boy's foolishness, pure courage, confused him. Min Jun would not allow fear to dominate him. He leapt, spinning, a precise block followed by a strike that forced the invaders to stagger, as the villagers gradually regained their courage. Soon, the officer, after repeated failed attempts, had no choice but to order a retreat. The invaders vanished into the night, leaving the village peaceful under the silver moon. Min Jun breathed heavily, sweat and blood mingling on his face, but in his eyes shone the quiet joy of seeing the villagers safe. The villagers approached, surrounding Min Jun, crying, laughing, expressing gratitude. A young girl held his hand, her voice trembling. We live because of you. We will never forget you. Min Jun merely smiled and bowed his head. I only did what was right, because we cannot live without integrity, without courage. The elderly man nearby spoke with a deep, warm voice. Like wind through leaves. Tonight, The moonlight not only illuminates the village but also the souls of our people. Courage, integrity, truly exist within humans. Minjun looked up at the full moon, exhaling, feeling peace spreading through him. Across the fields, moonlight cast over tile roofs and red dirt paths, creating a serene yet vibrant scene. He understood that, no matter the challenges ahead, courage and integrity would serve as a guiding light, an invisible sword protecting the most sacred values of humanity. The villagers began returning home, but their eyes lingered on Minjun, a reminder that courage is not just an individual act but a gift, a responsibility, and a light guiding the darkest nights. Minjun walked along the field path, sword on his shoulder, moonlight casting over his hair, eyes full of determination. He knew that today he fought not just for himself, but for all souls in need of protection, for righteousness and the integrity inherent in every human heart. "We will always stand firm," he whispered, his voice echoing in the night silence. "Courage and integrity, nothing can take them from us." The fields were quiet. The moon still shone, and Minjun's figure moved along the red dirt road, a living symbol of courage and integrity, leaving in every villager's heart a deep belief that even in the darkest night, the light of justice always exists. 4.2 Light in the schoolyard, when courage overcomes fear. In the city of Rio de Janeiro, where winding streets lead down to long sandy beaches and golden sunlight filters through green tree canopies, there was a young girl named Isabella. She was only 12, but her eyes held a maturity rare for her age. Isabella was a sixth-grade student at a middle school, where cruel pranks and bullying happened every day, and not everyone had the courage to confront it. Isabella was neither the most outgoing nor the fastest in sports, but she always kept a pure heart and a belief in fairness. Early in the school year, she noticed a group of classmates frequently mocking younger students. They ridiculed appearances, laughed at awkward gestures, and targeted those with simple clothing. Isabella witnessed it many times, but each time she remained silent. One Friday afternoon, as the school bell rang, signaling the end of classes, Isabella saw a boy named Lucas, surrounded by the bullies. "You dress so badly. How dare you show up here?" a girl in the group shouted, pointing at him. Lucas lowered his head, trembling, unable to say a word. A wave of heat rose in Isabella's chest. She felt an urge she could not ignore. She could not remain silent any longer. She took a deep breath and stepped in front of the group. "Stop it!" Her voice rang clearly, making everyone turn to look. The girl mocking her laughed. "And what will you do, little girl? Stand up to us." Isabella met their eyes, her voice firm. "I cannot stand by while you hurt Lucas. Stop it right now." The surrounding students fell silent, partly in surprise, partly because they had never seen anyone stand up like this. But the bully didn't give in easily and stepped forward, voice cold. "Who do you think you are, daring to interfere? Be careful, or you'll be next." Isabella felt her heart pound, her breath quicken, fear creeping in. But she reminded herself, courage is not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. She stepped closer to Lucas, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Stand tall. There's nothing to be ashamed of." Lucas looked at her, still fearful, but a spark of hope appeared in his eyes. The group of bullies laughed, but Isabella didn't back down. "Do you think humiliating others makes you stronger? I don't. Stop and show respect. To each other," she continued firmly. Some students around began exchanging glances and lowering their heads silently. For the first time, Isabella's words, without shouting or violence, shone like a light that made people pause. The lead bully frowned, but realized she could do nothing. The group turned away, leaving Lucas and Isabella standing in the schoolyard, the wind blowing through the iron gates, carrying a sense of relief and calm. Lucas looked at Isabella, voice trembling but grateful. "Thank you, you helped me." Isabella smiled gently. "No need to thank me. We all deserve respect. When you feel afraid, remember that sometimes we must stand up for what is right, even if it's just one small step." News of Isabella's actions spread throughout the school. Students who had stayed silent began feeling braver, daring to speak up when witnessing injustice. Some approached Isabella, asking, "Weren't you scared?" She shook her head. "Of course I was scared. Who wouldn't be? But if we stay silent, fear will never disappear. Courage is action, not a feeling. In the following days, Lucas grew more confident, smiling and talking with classmates, while the bullies' aggression diminished, not because they were forced, but because Isabella's courage changed the way people perceived right and wrong. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Isabella stood in the schoolyard, watching the younger students play, feeling a gentle joy spreading through her. She knew that today's action had not only protected one person, but had planted a seed of integrity and courage in many hearts. She walked to a corner of the yard, picking up a fallen leaf from a flame tree, watching the red sunlight cast upon it, and silently thought, if each of us dares to stand up for what is right, the world will be better. One step, one small action, but enough to make a difference. A boy ran up, taking her hand, voice full of pride. You're an example for us, Isabella. I want to follow your lead. Isabella bent down, smiling, eyes gentle as she looked toward the horizon where the sun was setting. Let courage guide your path, she said, voice warm but strong. And always be honest with yourself, for only then can we truly be brave. The schoolyard was peaceful, but the students' eyes and laughter now carried newfound confidence. Isabella walked across the yard, her shadow long on the concrete in the afternoon sun, a living symbol of courage and integrity, leaving in every student's heart the belief that even in the darkest days, the light of justice can shine. In the days that followed, more students began standing up when they witnessed injustice, and Isabella knew she had planted seeds not just in Lucas, but throughout her small community. Her actions became a guiding light, proof that courage and integrity are not distant ideals, but daily choices, small steps full of meaning. As the sun set behind the hills of Rio, Isabella watched the running, laughing shadows, feeling hope spreading within. Courage, integrity, will always exist if we are brave enough to uphold them. 4.3 Amid the Alps storm, when courage triumphs over all choices. On the towering peaks of the Alps, where clouds cling to the mountainsides and the wind cuts like knives, the Italian explorer Lorenzo was making his way across the snow-white trails. In his early 30s, Lorenzo had a strong build, sun-weathered face, and deep blue eyes like the winter sky. He had climbed many mountains, but he had never faced a challenge like today. Alongside him was his companion Marco, a younger man, agile but less experienced. They had set out early that morning, aiming to conquer a remote peak few had ever reached. The surrounding silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of footsteps and the scrape of trekking poles against the snow. At first, everything seemed manageable. Lorenzo led the way, Marco following closely, occasionally laughing to ease the cold tension. But as they approached the summit, the sky darkened, clouds thickened, and a storm began to form. Lorenzo, are you sure we should keep going? Marco asked, voice trembling from the cold. Lorenzo stopped, eyes scanning the darkening sky. We need to assess the situation. A storm is coming, but turning back too early means we'll never know our limits. Still, our safety must come first. The storm arrived faster than anticipated. Fierce winds whipped through, covering everything in a thick layer of snow. Marco slipped, tumbling down the slope, calling out weakly, Lorenzo, help me. I can't get up. Lorenzo felt his heart pound, fear creeping into every fiber of his being. He knew retreating was the safe choice. But leaving Marco behind was unthinkable. No, I won't leave you, he shouted, charging into the icy gale. Snow blinded him. Wind nearly stole his breath, but Lorenzo pressed on. He slipped and fell, yet always held on to Marco, pulling him up. Keep going, Marco. I won't let you go. Marco shivered, the wind so strong he could barely hear, yet his eyes shone with trust in his friend. Lorenzo poured all his strength into guiding Marco, step by step, over slick rocks and snow deep to his waist. At that moment, Lorenzo realized that courage wasn't just facing nature's fury, it was enduring every hardship to protect someone else. Every step demanded all his willpower. Every breath embodied steadfast determination. Finally, after what seemed like endless minutes, they found a small crevice in the mountain that shielded them from the wind. Snow still lay thick, but the savage gusts had subsided. Lorenzo helped Marco sit, added extra thermal layers. And they both gasped for air, eyes meeting, smiling through sweat and frost. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have made it, Marco said, voice choked with emotion. Lorenzo nodded, eyes toward the cloud-covered summit. We survived not because we conquered the mountain, but because we didn't abandon each other. Courage sometimes means walking through hardship together. The storm eased, and the first light of dawn began to touch the snow, turning its silver white into soft gold. Lorenzo and Marco rose, shoulder to shoulder, each step a living testament to integrity and enduring friendship. They knew the journey was far from over, but trust and friendship now became their anchor. Lorenzo looked at Marco, voice calm yet powerful. We survived because no one left the other behind. That's what makes us truly strong. Marco smiled, eyes filled with confidence. You're right, Lorenzo. This time, we didn't just conquer the mountain, we conquered ourselves. Morning lights spread across the Alps, illuminating endless snowy paths, the small but determined figures moving amid nature's ferocity. Lorenzo and Marco continued their journey. Every step, every breath a symbol of courage and integrity, a testament to unbreakable friendship amidst the harshest challenges. The cold wind still blew, snow still covered the ground. But the inner light in their hearts was enough to warm even the harshest landscape. Lorenzo gripped Marco's hand, stepping forward. Courage and integrity always exist if we are willing to stand together. The gusts from the Alps roared, but they could not sweep away the resolve and faith in one another. They moved onward, shadows etched against the white snow, a reminder that survival is not only overcoming nature, but keeping a steadfast heart and spirit amidst trials. Marco looked down at the valley below, voice trembling but joyful. We are truly lucky, but that luck came from your courage and integrity. Lorenzo turned to him, eyes gleaming with determination. Not just me, Marco. We created this luck together. Friendship, courage, integrity, that's what keeps us moving forward. The morning light glittered on the snowy slopes, reflecting off their smiles and determined eyes. They continued their journey, small figures among towering peaks, yet hearts full of strength, a living testament to courage, integrity, and enduring friendship amid the harshest trials. 4.4 The Stormy Sea. When courage and integrity decide life or death. On a small cargo ship in the Philippine Sea, where waves roared and wind cut like knives, a Filipino sailor named Ramon stood firmly on the deck, gripping the ropes tightly. Ramon, in his early 30s, had a sturdy build, a sun-weathered face, and bright eyes. He had spent many years at sea, but he had never faced a storm as fierce as this one. The ship rocked violently, seawater splashing over the deck, and the roar of the waves shook everything. Ramon shouted to his crew, "Hold your positions. No one leaves their post." But amidst the raging storm, a child's scream echoed from the bow of the ship. A young boy, the captain's son, had slipped and fallen into the sea. Without a second thought, Ramon leaped into the icy water, ignoring the towering waves. "Hold on, kid. Hold on," he shouted, swimming toward the child. The water was relentless, strong enough to pull him away, but Ramon used all his strength to reach the boy. The child cried out, flailing helplessly in the churning waves. Fear crept into Ramon's body, but he reminded himself, courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. He reached the boy, pushing him against his chest, keeping him afloat amidst the wild waters. Waves slammed into him, tossing him around, and the pressure caused him to bleed from his nose. Yet, seeing the child's eyes full of trust kept him moving forward. "Ramon, don't leave me." The boy sobbed through the wind and rain. Ramon gritted his teeth, holding the child tightly, swimming in short, determined bursts toward the ship. Every muscle ached, his body nearly exhausted, but his willpower remained strong. Each wave was a trial, testing his courage and integrity. Finally, with a strong pull and steadfast swimming, Ramon brought the boy back onto the deck. Crew members rushed to pull the child to safety, while Ramon collapsed, breathing heavily, shivering from cold and fatigue. "You're safe now, kid, you're safe," Ramon panted, looking at the boy as if guarding a piece of his own heart. The child clung to him, tears mixing with rain and seawater. The captain, the boy's father, placed a hand on Ramon's shoulder, voice choked. Thank you, thanks to you, my son is alive. You are truly brave. Ramon smiled, salt water and sweat streaking his sun-weathered face. I just did what was right. I couldn't leave him, he said, voice calm but firm. Integrity, it's never easy, but it gives the strength to overcome fear. The storm began to subside, waves smaller now, as the first morning light touched the sea, casting a soft golden glow over the silver waters. Ramon gazed toward the horizon, feeling a quiet peace settle in his heart. The boy held Ramon's hand, voice trembling but determined. I'll always remember. I'll try to live rightly, like you taught me. Ramon nodded, eyes gentle yet resolute. Be honest with yourself, no matter the difficulty or challenge. Then courage will always follow. In the days that followed, Ramon continued his journey across the Philippine Sea, but he carried a deeper sense of inner strength than ever before. That day's actions had not only saved a life, but had also reinforced his faith in courage and integrity. Other sailors looked at Ramon with respect, learning from his example. They understood that in the vast ocean, amid fierce storms, survival depended not just on skill, but on courage and honesty. Ramon looked out at the sea, wind whipping his face, waves still high, yet his eyes shone with determination. Courage and integrity are inseparable from a person. Even when the ocean is at its fiercest, he whispered, a reminder to himself and those who shared the journey. The boy stood beside him, eyes clear and firm, gripping Ramon's hand as they both looked at the vast ocean, where the waves raged but could not overpower the steadfast hearts before them. Ramon smiled, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. Remember, courage and honesty will always guide you, no matter the storm or challenge. The morning sunlight glimmered across the sea, reflecting on the wet deck and tired but determined faces, a living testament to courage, integrity, and the power of the human heart amid the harshest trials. The storm had passed, but the image of Ramon and the boy standing on the deck, their shadows cast on the silver waves, became a symbol of courageous action, integrity, and the promise to uphold one's values. A reminder that even in the fiercest seas, the light of righteousness persists. 4.5 Protecting the green forest, when courage intertwines with integrity. In a small village at the edge of the Mau Mau forest in Kenya, where ancient trees blocked the sky and birdsong echoed throughout the day, there lived a young man named Jomo. In his early 20s, he had a sturdy frame, determined eyes, and a heart deeply connected to his community and nature. Since childhood, Jomo had learned to read the signs of the forest, understanding the sound of running water, the rustle of leaves, and even the footsteps of strangers. The village depended on the forest for its livelihood, but illegal loggers had repeatedly come, cutting down ancient trees, causing soil erosion, and threatening the survival of local wildlife. One morning, as sunlight filtered through the canopy, Jomo noticed tire tracks and the faint buzz of chainsaws at the forest's edge. He knew the loggers had returned. Rushing home, Jomo called a few young villagers together. Everyone, our forest is under threat. We cannot sit idly by. One member of the group hesitated. But Jomo, they have money and weapons. Do we really have the strength to oppose them? Jomo's face hardened. If we do not protect the forest, they will destroy everything. We must do what is right, even if it's dangerous, even if we are afraid. As long as we stand together, they cannot win. Though still fearful, the group nodded. They prepared tools, set up warning traps, and planned a careful approach to confront the loggers. Jomo led, eyes scanning every part of the forest edge, attentive to every rustle of leaves, every footprint in the damp soil. Approaching the logging area, they saw massive trees felled, the buzz of chainsaws ringing incessantly. One logger turned, eyes threatening, gripping a gun tightly. Who are you to come here? Jomo stepped forward, voice firm yet calm. We are the people of this village. We protect our forest. Stop logging immediately, or we will call the authorities. The logger scoffed. Authorities? They won't arrive in time. You're just kids in the forest. Fear surged through Jomo, but he took a deep breath, recalling his father's words, integrity is defending what is right, even when no one stands with you. He glanced at his team, who looked to him with anticipation and resolve. We are not alone, Jomo continued, voice resolute. This forest belongs to us, and we will protect it. A brief confrontation ensued, not through direct violence, but through clever tactics, using fallen trees and ropes to block paths, shouting to create distraction, causing the loggers to hesitate. When the forest rangers arrived, Jomo led them to the scene and presented the evidence. The loggers were arrested, and the forest was temporarily safe. Jomo stood amidst the towering trees, inhaling the earthy scent and resin of the forest, looking at his team. We did what was right. But this is not just today's victory. We must continue to protect the forest, to uphold what is just. A young woman in the group spoke up. Jomo, without you, we would have been too afraid to act. Jomo smiled, eyes warm and steady. Courage is not the absence of fear, but acting rightly despite fear. We have done it, and now, the forest will live with us, reminding us of the power of integrity. In the following days, Jomo and the community created long-term plans to protect the forest, organizing patrols, educating children and villagers about the value of nature. Each morning, as sunlight pierced the canopy, he felt a sense of peace, knowing that faith and integrity had preserved the soul of the forest. One afternoon, as children played among the ancient trees, Jomo watched from afar, voice calm but firm. Learn to love the forest, protect what is right, and have the courage to stand up when needed. When you do what is right, you are never alone. The wind rustled through the leaves, birds sang, and sunlight streamed through the branches, illuminating the hearts of everyone present. Jomo knew that courage and integrity were not only about today's actions, but about perseverance, serving as a model for future generations to continue protecting what is right, no matter the challenges. The image of Jomo standing among the trees, his shadow cast on the lush greenery, became a living symbol of the power of courage, integrity, and community solidarity. Every step he took reminded everyone that protecting life and defending what is right always requires steadfastness and bravery in the heart. As the sun set, casting golden light over the canopy, Jomo held a young boy's hand, eyes gentle. Remember, courage and integrity will always guide you, no matter how dense the darkness. The Mau Mau forest lay calm in the evening glow, but the rustling leaves seemed to whisper that courage, integrity, and communal unity remained ever present, like the ancient trees standing firm amid the trials of time and nature.